Good morning again and welcome. My name is Molly Mae Culligan and I am this morning's worship associate, and my pronouns are she, her. If today is your first time with us, we'd love to get to know you. Right after service, you are invited to our welcoming room, which is located in the south entrance. And if you're online, the link to our visitor forum is being dropped into the chat now. As you enter the sanctuary and at any point during the service, you may write your joys and sorrows in our book, light a candle, or place a stone in the water, which is right over there. Those joining from home can write prayers of joy and sorrow into the Zoom chat, which will be open until the start of the sermon. And during the week, anyone can go to the Pastoral Care portal on our website to let our ministers know if you need some support. We gather in worship to find meaning and to live more deeply. Worship creates connections within, among, and beyond us, calling us to our better selves, calling us to live with wisdom and compassion. Whomever you are, whomever you love, whatever your image of the holy, we are glad you're here. Today we're going to light the chalice with the help of Megan and Ruby and Felix. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, with words from Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Such a good job. Here. And now let's say together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world.
Good morning. My name is Bob Cerince. My pronouns are he and him, and I am a member of this congregation and serving as your preacher this morning.
Hallelujah, amen.
Elaine, you're wonderful. Today we're going to be exploring the fourth UU principle, that independent search for truth and meaning. So come all you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. Our minister, Reverend Jen, often uses a meditation called the meta prayer during this portion of the service, and we'll use this format for the meditation today with a slight addition. We'll sing a verse of filled with loving kindness between each section of the meditation, and we'll do that a cappella or a cappella. So first, put your body in a place that's comfortable. Soften your gaze or close your eyes and take a deep breath And imagine yourself looking at your reflection in a mirror. Say to yourself, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be peaceful. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be well. Take a deep breath. And in your mind's eye, gather those you love, those who are close to your heart, and say to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be peaceful. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be well. Take a deep, deep breath. Think of those acquaintances in your life, folks you may see regularly at work or in this church, your neighborhood, your community. And say to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be peaceful. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be be peaceful and at ease. May you be well. Take a deep breath. And consider those who you may be having a conflict. You may have real difficulty saying this prayer for them. They may even be an enemy to you or your community or your nation or world. Say to them, may you be filled with a loving kindness. May you be peaceful. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be well. Take a deep breath. Consider all the living things on this earth. The little insects and the mammals and all creatures, great and small. See the earth and its lands and mountains and rocks and hills and oceans. And see further still the whole planet. And then its place in the solar system and galaxy and throughout the universe. And say to all these and us, may we be filled with loving kindness. May we be peaceful. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be well.
Hello. This is a reading by Lisa Ward. A covenant is not a definition of a relationship. It is the framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. Sometimes we may arrive at a unison, but it is not required. A creed gives authority to the statement. A covenant gives authority to shared intention. A creed creates an us and a them. A covenant invites friendship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasure of shared truth. The overall trust within this covenant is the truth, capital T, something which no one person can fully see, yet something which each and every person can come to know, in glimpses, in another story, in epiphanies. Truth is ever-changing in our seeking to understand because of our limited perspectives. We grow into a deeper sense of the meaning of all things when we take our joys seriously with a full heart and mind. The courage within this covenant is in the acceptance and celebration of life with all its changes, pain, ironies, and joys. And the sacrifice within this covenant is in the letting go of dogma, of assumptions, of control, and giving over to a greater wisdom which comes to us in bits and pieces. The task of this covenant is to take responsibility for the freedom we espouse. We know that we are interconnected, and that what we do creates ripples of hope or despair, of affirmation or negotiation or negation. What we do with and for one another is powerful and beyond our imagining.
I should probably tell you a little bit about myself before I begin, because I think for many of you, I'm an acquaintance. I started attending this church in 2019, and have been singing in a choir and helping out on Sunday mornings with music through the pandemic and through now. I went to a Presbyterian seminary back in the late 1980s and was an ordained Presbyterian minister for about 5 years. Moved over to other work, and in the last 20 years before I came up here, and actually for a little bit here in Lane County, worked for local governments on issues like housing and homelessness. And I'm really happy to have this opportunity to preach with you this morning. It's been a minute since I've done some preaching, but I'm really excited about this topic because I've been thinking about, how we come to truth. As a junior in high school, I converted from Catholicism to Protestantism through a parachurch youth organization called Campus Life Youth for Christ. Ed Tanner, the advisor for the group composed of students from my high school, drove me home after meeting and led me in the sinner's prayer, where I accepted Jesus into my heart as my personal Lord and Savior. At the time, I thought it was the start of my journey of faith and search for truth, but in retrospect, it was really just a point in time in that journey to seek what is true, what is real and lasting. And now when I think about it, I've considered that I've actually been searching for truth since I was a pretty young child. And so in my high school days as a new Protestant, I was taught the Bible was the sole source of truth, and it had all the answers to the questions of my life, and in fact for the whole world. And at that time I was so enamored with this search for truth that I spent every spare moment I could reading the Bible, attending Bible studies and prayer groups several times a week, youth group meetings, and of course Sunday services. I desperately wanted to know the truth with a capital T, especially since it was necessary for my eternal salvation. In public school through the 60s and 70s, I was taught about the scientific method. And the 6-step method, as you recall, are 1, ask a question, 2, do background research, 3, construct a hypothesis or theory and test that theory with an experiment, 5, analyze the test data and draw conclusions, and 6, share and communicate results. Of course, the scientific method has been a proven approach to understand observable, measurable phenomenon, a way to discover the truth about things which we can put in a test tube or on a scale or observe in a telescope. As a psychology major in my undergraduate studies, I learned to use the scientific method to understand human behavior, to learn the truth about reasons for human behavior and my own actions. So, how do we know what's true? How do we know what we know? This is the question that we're considering this morning. And in this day of alternative facts and popular conspiracy theories, how do we discern what is true for ourselves, our communities, our nation, and our world? The study of knowledge has been called epistemology. And philosophers from ancient days to the present have asked, what can we know? How can we know it? Why do we know some things and not others? How do we acquire knowledge? Is knowledge possible? Can knowledge be certain, or can it change? And why do we believe certain truths and claims and not others? This quest for truth is not simply a scholarly endeavor. There are personal, community, national, and global matters which require each of us as individuals and members of the human family to determine what is true. For example, are COVID-19 vaccinations safe to use, and do they prevent and or minimize the effects of the disease? Did Joe Biden fairly win the 2020 U.S. presidential election, or was it fraudulently stolen, as Donald Trump claims? Should every woman in the U.S. have the right to make personal reproductive decisions, including abortion, or as the current U.S. Supreme Court has ruled, let it be determined on a state-by-state basis? Do black lives really matter? Have humans caused global heating, and can we do anything meaningful to reverse its effects on the planet? I know what a lot of you all think here, and I share those thoughts. I'll bet there are some, though, who may think differently. And though we haven't done a poll here recently, I'll bet we might find a few people with different political affiliations than many of us. Rev. Page Jetty, UU minister, wrote, "As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bonds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and experience, but also through tradition, community, conflict, nature, and relationships. As a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will in every age discover new insights. So it's one thing to have an academic or political debate about the truth of a particular subject. It's another to wrestle with loved ones or your community about how to live with different perspectives on what is true. In my family, there are members who have vastly different views of the safety of vaccines and mask wearing. My wife and I, she's sitting right there this morning, thank you, sweetie, for being here. We're vaccinated and double boosted and wear masks when required. And yet we have family members who have chosen to do otherwise. And because of these differences, we've had very heated arguments, and it has limited what activities we can do together. And sadly, I know of other families who have had such conflict over their version of the truth about COVID-19, or maybe some other political or divisive matter, that they can no longer even sit at table and share a meal. It's very human in these situations to make judgments about how people have come to their truth, to consider our position to be superior or better informed or factually correct or wiser. It's easy to think that those people who hold a particular conspiracy theory are morally bankrupt or shallow-minded or perhaps brainwashed. These are the moments when we risk the hazard of dehumanizing others who have positions that diverge from our truth about a matter that goes against what we might consider a fundamental value. And there's been much made of this so-called culture war in our country, pitting red states versus blue states, rural versus urban, liberal versus conservative. And all these conversations intensified through social and alternative media outlets. How each side determines the truth or posits alternative facts has made public discourse toxic and more prone to division and less focused on seeking solutions. Furthermore, the characterization of these opposing views creates binary paradigms, which leaves little room for intermediate perspectives and creative viewpoints. Well, one way we can guard ourselves from dehumanizing those who disagree with us is to consider the axiom, where you stand depends on where you sit. It means our viewpoints are often shaped by the context of our lives, such as family or culture, education, vocation, political affiliation, religious background, national origin, etc. And though we may feel our perspective on a particular issue is plainly objective, there are likely underlying and unconscious contexts which have determined how we've staked our position on any given topic. And additionally, if we can offer grace to ourselves for the conditions or the context which shape our viewpoints, well then maybe there's a possibility we can offer grace to those who stand in opposition to us. But let me say it's important to add some qualifiers to this axiom, where you stand depends on where you sit. First, it's a term attributed to a U.S. bureaucrat in the 1940s whose metaphor is ableist and may be offensive to those with disabling conditions. And second, as our context in life changes, it's very possible our positions will change. For example, as a young person, I grew up in a military family. My father was in the U.S. Navy. And in that context, there were unspoken, politically conservative values that were a part of my upbringing. And then when I attended a liberal Protestant seminary in graduate school, the values of inclusion and social justice changed my perspective. When we consider the larger context of those who disagree with us, it opens the door for compassion, for those who we might consider even our enemies. It makes it possible for us to therefore be allies on the side of reproductive rights for women, including abortion, and see those who would take away those rights as people who are decent and with inherent dignity, as our first principle proclaims. It makes it possible for us to align with voting rights for all eligible voters and see as members of the same family those who would seek to disenfranchise low-income voters of color. It opens our capacity to strive for racial and economic justice and view those who espouse extremist white replacement theory still worthy of our compassion. This is an ongoing challenge as Unitarian Universalists in our journey for social justice and seeking the truth, and that is to refrain from disparaging and dehumanizing those who think differently than us. Sometimes the most hazardous journey of truth we take is learning the truth about ourselves. Often our version of that truth can hinder us from seeing ourselves in ways that will fill us with loving kindness and peacefulness and well-being. If we can open ourselves to the truth about ourselves, perhaps it can even be life-changing. Father Greg Boyle is a Catholic priest and author of Tattoos of the Heart. In that book, he tells a story of a foreman at Homeboy Bakery in the early 1980s who learned the truth about himself. Father Boyle is one of the founders of Homeboy Industries, a corporation created to provide employment for gang members in Boyle Heights, Los Angeles. And it sits between these two large public housing projects, Pico Gardens and Aliso Village. And Father Boyle recalls Luis, who in his mid-20s was arguably among the most notorious and savviest of drug dealers in the community. Father Boyle and Luis had known each other for more than a decade. But when Luis's daughter, Tiffany, was born, things changed. And Luis wanted to distance himself from his life as a drug dealer and instead work at the Homeboy Industry Bakery. Not only did his natural abilities soon earn him a promotion to move up to foreman, but he also learned that he had to supervise rival gang leaders, which was incredibly challenging. And one day, Father Boyle received a request, this odd request for a tour from farmers in the Central Valley of California. They wanted to see the bakery. It was part of Luis's job description to greet these busloads of people and film crews. And Luis hated that part of his job. And he would often say in a whining voice, "Do I gotta?" When the bus arrived, it was directed to a reserved spot. It was ultra-modern and sleek and equipped with a microphone on the front of the bus for tour announcements. And Luis pretended to be the tour guide. "Welcome to Homeboy Industries," his voice droned on. "Observe gang members in their natural habitat. Please keep your hands in the bus at all times. Do not attempt to feed the homies. They are not yet tame." After the tour, Luis spoke to Father Boyle. He said, "Damn, G, what's up with these white people anyway?" Father Boyle wrote, "Well, what was up with us?" Father Boyle's white. And Luis said, "I mean, damn, they always be using the word great." "We do?" Father Boyle replied. "Oh, yeah, watch. This bunch of gabachos stroll in here, and they see the place, and it's all firme and clean, and machines working proper, and they say, 'This place is great.' And then they see the homies, tu sabes, enemies working all firme, and they say, 'You fellas are great.' Then they taste our bread and go, "This bread is great." I mean, damn, gee. Why people always be using the word great? Well, from that day on, Father Boyle would say to Luis, just to mess with him a little, "Luis, you are great." Short time after the tour, Luis rushed out of the bakery to meet Father Boyle in a parking lot. He was excited. And excitement wasn't a card that Luis often played. He was too cool for that. But he said to Father Boyle, "Hey, gee, you're not going to believe what happened to me yesterday after my shift." And he proceeded to tell Father Boyle he had picked up his daughter, Tiffany, from the babysitters and drove to their little apartment, where for the first time Luis was paying rent with honestly earned clean money. He unlocked the front door and Tiffany ran down the hallway and landed in their modest sala. She planted her feet in the living room and extended her arms and took the whole room in with her eyes, and she then declared with an untethered smile, "This is great!" Luis turned to Father Boyle and said, "I thought she was turning white." And then he put his hands on his knees and looked at her face to face and said, "What's great, mija?" Tiffany clutched her heart and gushed, "My home." The two men stood looking at each other, eyes welling with tears, and Father Boyle said, "Luis, you did this. You've never had a home in your life, and now you have one. You did this. You were the biggest drug dealer in town, and you stopped and baked bread instead. You did this. You've never had a father in your life, and now you are one. I hate to tell you this, Luis, but you are great." And so Father Boyle told this story for the first time at Luis's funeral. Luis, wasn't doing anything wrong on the Wednesday afternoon he was killed. He was loading the trunk of his car in the projects, readying himself for a camping trip with friends, and two gang members, their faces covered, entered their enemy's territory looking for fools slipping. They saw Luis and must have thought to themselves, "He'll do." They walked up and executed him. Father Boyle told the great story at the funeral largely because of questions Luis's friends and homies asked during the week that spanned his death and funeral. "What's the point," they asked, "of doing good if this can happen to you?" "It's all good and fair questions," Father Boyle answered. He told the packed church, Luis was a human being who came to know the truth about himself. This became Luis's life work. He embraced his goodness, his greatness, and nothing for Luis was the same again. And really, what is death compared to that? No bullet can pierce it, Father Boyle said. In my journey of seeking the truth for myself, I've moved from Catholicism to fundamentalist Christianity to Protestantism and even atheism. I no longer believe in a God who is all-knowing and all-powerful and all-loving who died for my sins. For me, the world makes a lot more sense without this kind of God, because I'm not looking for a heavenly being to save me or my world from all its ills. In my view, now, humans have created the major problems that plague our planet, and it's up to humanity to make the world a better place.
Amen.
And yet, even though I no longer believe in a personal God, I'm still open to the wonder and mystery and abiding love that is all around me, all around us. In fact, in this very room, because I see it in your eyes. And this is my truth. So how do we know it's true? For Luis and for us, it is in community that we learn not only the truth about who we are, but also our community can help us define what really matters and how together we can uphold justice, which brings loving kindness and peace and wellness to everyone. This is the heritage of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. This is the reason we develop covenants of beloved community, which affirms each of us has dignity. Everyone has a place at the table. We don't have to think alike to love alike, where no matter who you love or what you define as holy, your journey to seek truth is welcome here. May it be so. Amen. Shalom, namaste, and blessed be.
We extinguish our chalice, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Receive the benediction. May you be brave enough to expose your aching woundedness and reveal your vulnerability. May you speak your deepest truths, knowing that they will change as you do. May you sing the music within you, composing your own melody, playing your song with all your heart. May you draw, paint, sculpt, sew, and show the world your vision. May you write letters, poetry, biography, slogans, graffiti, the great novel, laying bare your words to love and hate. May you love even though your heart breaks again and again. And until the end of your days, may your life be filled with possibilities and courage. May it be so.